All right, so today we're diving into some pretty fascinating territory, I think. The role of Christianity in America.
Okay.
But we're not just talking about, Christianity in some general sense.
Right.
We've got an excerpt from a speech that Donald Trump gave to some faith leaders,
Okay.
and well, let's just say it offers a pretty unique perspective.
It certainly does.
Mhm.
This speech offers a glimpse into how at least one prominent American leader views the intersection of faith and politics.
And it might surprise some people to know just how intertwined Christianity and American culture really are.
Yeah, it's a great point. A lot of times we look at the historical context.
So right off the bat, Trump says something pretty bold. He says America needs religion. He calls it the glue that holds it together.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's a powerful statement, and I think it reflects a sentiment that's been around for centuries.
Okay.
You see, while America has never had an official state religion, Christianity has been deeply embedded in its history and culture since its founding.
So not officially a Christian nation, but
But there's a strong argument to be made that Christian values and principles have had a profound influence on everything from the legal system to social norms.
interesting. And this idea of a Christian nation,
Yeah.
um, it's been a source of debate, though, right throughout American history.
Absolutely. It's a complex issue with different interpretations and perspectives. And
Right.
I think what's interesting here is how Trump taps into that sentiment.
Hmm.
He kind of reinforces this idea that Christianity is essential to America's identity and well-being.
He doesn't just talk about Christianity in a broad sense, though. He also shares some personal anecdotes about his own experiences with Christianity.
Right.
Mentions attending church with his father, seeing Billy Graham at Yankee Stadium as a child,
Yeah.
even getting advice on a Florida property deal from Paula White.
Ah.
Not exactly what you expect to hear in a speech to faith leaders.
True. It's certainly a unique blend of personal and political.
Sure.
But I think even if we set aside the specifics, these anecdotes reveal something interesting. They kind of show how deeply ingrained Christianity is in American culture. These figures, these events, they're kind of cultural touchstones for a large segment of the population.
Yeah, it's like even if you're not a sports fanatic, you probably know who Michael Jordan is.
Precisely. And so I think Trump's familiarity with these prominent figures, Billy Graham, Norman Vincent Peale, it highlights how these individuals have shaped religious and political discourse in America.
Right.
Their words and actions have resonated with millions.
And he doesn't shy away from name dropping, does he?
No, he doesn't.
He rattles off this list of evangelical leaders. Paula White, Franklin Graham, the Swaggarts.
Mm.
It's like he's showing his connections, his comfort level within that world.
And that's significant because it speaks to the rise of the religious right in American politics.
Okay.
And how it's become such a powerful force, particularly for the Republican Party.
He even makes a point of saying that Christians don't vote reliably enough
Yeah.
and urges them to get out and vote in the upcoming election. It's a very direct appeal to that base.
Absolutely. He's acknowledging their potential power and reminding them of their shared values. It's a strategic move, no doubt.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely.
So we've seen how Trump views the importance of Christianity in America, both from a historical and personal perspective.
Right.
But how does that translate into actual policies and actions?
Well, he highlights a few specific things he's done.
Okay.
For example, he talks about creating the White House Faith and Opportunity Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit I hadn't actually heard of that before.
It's not something that gets a ton of mainstream attention, but it's actually quite significant.
Okay.
Essentially, it was designed to give religious organizations more influence in policy decisions.
So like a more direct line between faith-based groups and the government.
Exactly. It's a concrete example of how Trump has sought to empower those communities and align his administration with their concerns.
Okay.
And then, of course, there are his policies on issues like abortion and religious liberty.
Right. Those are hot-button topics where faith and politics really collide in a big way.
Yeah.
He also mentions appointing conservative judges, including those Supreme Court justices.
And those appointments have been incredibly consequential. They've shifted the balance of the court and are likely to have a long-lasting impact on issues related to faith, morality, and the law.
It's almost like we could spend a whole other deep dive just unpacking the implications of those judicial appointments.
We probably could.
For sure. But let's stick with this speech for now.
Okay.
He also talks about trying to overturn the Johnson Amendment. What's that all about?
It's a bit of a legal deep cut, but essentially the Johnson Amendment prohibits tax-exempt organizations, including churches, from endorsing or opposing political candidates.
So it's meant to keep politics out of the pulpit, so to speak.
Exactly. And Trump's efforts to overturn it were very controversial. They were seen by some as a way to further blur the lines between church and state,
Right.
while others saw it as a matter of free speech and religious liberty.
It all comes back to that fundamental question, doesn't it? That separation of church and state.
Yeah.
It's right there in the Constitution. But there's always so much debate about what it actually means in practice.
It's one of those enduring tensions in American democracy.
Mm,
And different interpretations lead to very different approaches to governance.
for sure.
Trump's approach clearly favors a more intertwined relationship between church and state, at least when it comes to conservative Christian viewpoints.
Okay. And that brings us to something else he talks about in the
Oh.
speech. Something a bit more personal and, frankly, kind of unsettling. He describes being shot at during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that anecdote is quite revealing.
He goes into great detail about the incident,
Yeah.
about how close the bullet came to hitting him, about his son's reactions, even the doctor's advice to buy a lottery ticket.
Right.
And then he drops his bombshell. He believes that divine intervention saved him.
Wow.
He connects all these seemingly random circumstances and sees it as a sign from God.
It's a powerful example of how deeply personal experiences with faith can shape someone's worldview. It shows how these experiences can inform political views and actions, even on a national stage.
It's almost like he sees himself as having a divinely ordained mission, like he's chosen for something bigger than himself.
That sense of purpose, that belief that he's guided by a higher power, is palpable throughout the speech. And it underscores how, for some, faith isn't just a private matter.
Right.
It's a driving force in how they see their role in the world, even in the political arena. And that brings up a fascinating question for our listeners.
Makes you wonder, how much do those kinds of deeply personal, almost spiritual experiences, shape the decisions of those in power?
Yeah, it's a question that's really hard to answer definitively.
Right.
But I think this speech certainly provides some food for thought. It highlights how faith, and in this case, Christianity, can be a powerful motivator in the political realm.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've seen how Christianity has been so intertwined with American history and culture, really, from the very beginning.
Yeah, and we've kind of explored how that legacy continues to shape political discourse today, influencing everything from policy debates to judicial appointments.
It's clear that understanding this connection is really essential if you want to grasp the complexities of American politics and society as a whole.
Absolutely. It's not about endorsing any particular viewpoint,
Right.
but rather recognizing the profound influence that Christianity has had and continues to have on the American landscape.
This speech, with all its quirks and contradictions, it really offers a unique window into that world.
It does, and it leaves us with some important questions to consider.
Okay.
Regardless of your own personal beliefs, how do you see the relationship between Christianity and American culture evolving in the future?
Right. Will it continue to hold the same level of influence, or will we see a shift in the years to come?
And how will those changes impact the political landscape, the social fabric of the nation? These are all questions worth pondering as we move forward.
Well said. It seems like every deep dive leaves us with more questions than answers.
That's right.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Exactly. It's an ongoing exploration, a journey of discovery.
So to everyone listening, keep diving deeper, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep an open mind. You never know what you might uncover